You would not believe your eyes if 10 million fireflies lit up the world as I fell asleep.
Bum, 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 ba-da-dum. Time for Orville Season 3 reviews. Welcome back, one and all, to the Orville New Horizons, aka Season 3, the Hulu years, the Disney Plus adventures, whatever you want to call it. We're up to episode 8 of this, entitled Midnight Blue. And a brief bit of housekeeping: if you have been around these parts for a while, you may have noticed these reviews here are not coming out right after the episode. I'm actually a couple of weeks late. When I'm recording this, the series is actually, the season has actually ended. Just want to point out, I went on a work trip that was supposed to be a week, turned into 2.5 weeks. I got sick. I ended up losing my voice. If you watch my first thoughts review on this episode, you could hear that. And I really just didn't have the ability to record something until now. So forgive me. If you're watching this in the future, disregard this and just assume it came out on time. Let's get right into the action. This episode, Midnight Blue, picking up on some threads, not only from this season, but going back all the way to the beginning of the show, the episode 3, I think, plot line of Topa being gender changed, and then gender changed back, and that's where we start out this episode. So those are pieces of information you're going to need to keep in the back of your mind if you're going to understand what's going on here. So we have this nice little conversation going on between Kelly and Bortus. If you recall, Clyden, Bortus's mate, his husband, his whatever the Mocklin term for it, had a big blow up with his family because Topa was changed originally from a female into a male, and then they changed her back from a male into a female, going against Mocklin code, Mocklin customs. He was a very fundamentalist type of Mocklin, not having this at all, came right up to her and said, basically, I wish you had never been born. Personally, I think it should have been hatched, since Mocklins come out of eggs, but that's the smallest nitpick of any, so it's really not taking me out of it. Whatever. It appears that Kelly and Bortus have struck up a even stronger friendship at this point. Basically, without Clyden, Bortus is not doing that well on his own as far as raising a daughter, and Kelly's kind of, helped him a little bit here. Kelly obviously has a vested interest in Topa because she was the one that kind of got the ball rolling for the gender transformation back into a female in the first place. So we see here that Topa is actually having feelings for a boy, and she's not entirely sure how to express these. Kelly goes to talk to Bortus about this because Bortus said that was Clyden's whole deal, so Kelly's going to try and help about this. She basically says, well, you should try and tell the guy how you feel. And shock and awe, turns out the gentleman she has feelings for is Gordon Malloy. That's right, Multiverse of Malloy himself, down in engineering, where she confronts him. He's not understanding whatsoever. He's having a hard time following what's going on. Everyone else in engineering kind of clicks in right to begin with. John's there. I think Turco's there. Yaphet's there. Dan's there. That new alien guy bumps all over his head. I don't know what his species or his name is, but he kind of seems to be the fill-in for Dan this season. They're all there. They're all following what's going on. And Gordon's like, hey, I like you too. You're a great kid. Ha ha ha. And then finally it clicks. And he's like, oh, crap. Well, I think of you more like a sister. I really care about you. But you know what? This thing's not going to work out. So it didn't actually work out in Topa's favor, and it probably embarrassed Gordon more so than anyone else. As I mentioned, big ups for Dan. He's been conspicuously absent most of this season. Great to have him back here, as well as Yaphet. As we know, Yaphet's time is limited because of, at least this iteration of Yaphet's time is limited because of the death of Norm Macdonald. Still remains to be seen what they're going to do with the character going forward. Are they going to kill him off? Are they going to send him away? Are they going to recast him? Are they going to have him split into two jellies with different voices? Who knows? Interesting to see what happens with that, assuming the show goes forward into a 4th, 5th, 6th season, several movies, whatever. I think it's going to, but fingers crossed on that one. Knock on wood. Faux wood, but it still counts, right? Maybe that helps better. Anyways, great seeing them. This beautiful shot of the planet they're going to visit. This is the Mocklin female colony. This may be the first time we've gone back to it since our first meeting with Vina. What they're doing is they're doing a routine survey. So the Mocklin and the Union representatives, even though the Mocklin are part of the Union, they have this little treaty thing going on where they each are allowed to inspect the Mocklin colony, I think annually, to determine whether or not they're still trying to run their Moclan Female Underground Railroad. The Moclans have shown up first and already finished their inspection, which is technically not what was supposed to happen. But they're like, you know what? We found nothing. We're going to head out now. You guys take care. Peace. Little suspicious, but, whatever. So far, so good. And another piece of interesting fact here is Topa convinced Bortus and Kelly to allow her to come down to the planet as well, because obviously this whole situation kind of is revolving around her. She was the instigator as far as this break from Moclan society, where the females were allowed to break off and become their own society, their own culture, their own colony, I guess. So she's come down to visit Havina. Havina obviously in awe of Topa, because this was the whole thing that got the ball rolling. Great scene here. She's listening to some Dolly Parton, obviously call back to earlier times where she was very, very instrumental, pun intended, for getting this thing rolling. And Havina is a huge fan. Obviously, this is a greater interaction between Topa and Havina. They both have such great interest in each other, I suppose you could say. And they have a nice conversation. Havina tells her a bit about, what's going on. Topa's like, I love this whole situation. I'd like to help any way I can. And, great to meet you. And I'm gonna stick around and see what you guys have to offer. Then we get what I never knew I needed, but now absolutely required in my life, is a Renaissance Festival interpretation of the song Jolene. And if you haven't heard this, it actually sounded quite nice. There was no singing. It was just the, type of string instruments and whatnot. It was beautiful. I actually hope they put that on a soundtrack somewhere. Actually, a lot of the songs in this entire series are great, but this was just fun to begin with. Then we find out these are some sort of native Luminites, I believe they're called, kind of like super colorful fireflies. And their whole gist is that their certain colors are more rare. Blue is the super rare color. And as you can see here, we don't see any blues yet. And Topa, very much enjoying these. She's going out into the forest, and then Havina comes out to have a chat with her. And this is where things get a little creepy as far as where we're going. Havina basically is trying to coerce Topa. And when I say coerce, Topa is a child and is super all in regardless. I just don't think she understands the consequences. Havina is telling her that we're still running this illegal underground railroad to get these female Moclans off of Moclis to our little society here. And if you help us out, if you act as our agent aboard a Union vessel that can relay our messages much quicker than normal, that would be a great help in this illegal underground railroad thing. Now, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. I'm just saying it's illegal, and they're possibly getting Topa into a lot of trouble here. So I don't have a problem with the fact that they want to try and help as many female Moclans as they can from slaughter, from oppression, or whatever's going on. Asking a child to help out with this without all the facts, without all the training, without a fully realized idea of what's actually going on seems a bit manipulative, and maybe that's what they were going for in the episode. So that's why it gets a bit creepy here. Topa obviously agrees. They part ways. She plays with some more of the Luminites, and it turns out she finds a blue one. Now, this was never explained. I choose to believe this is not a real one, or if it is, it's like it was released as a plot, as a plan, because once she finds this, she hears something in the woods, and she is abducted, captured by a male Moclan. Yes, the crew of the Moclan shuttle that had done the surveillance earlier, the recon, whatever you want to call it, they're still there. They did not leave as promised. They have come back and captured Topa. They realize she doesn't come back to the festival, the little gathering or whatever. They go out into the woods and find that her necklace is on the ground. Obviously, they know that she would not just drop that on the ground and disappear, so something is amiss. Bortus and Kelly go back to the shuttle. It's been tampered with. They can't really take off unless they do some super duper dangerous thing right here. The subspace radio has been deactivated. So in essence, they're on their own. They're taking off, doing this super dangerous maneuver. They can't radio the Orville to tell them what's going on. So they just get the hell out of Dodge, go after the trail for the Moclan ship to try and track down Topa, because obviously this is her father and a super, super close friend who cares about Topa, and they want to get her back ASAP because they don't know what's going on. They don't know what the deal is. Havina goes back up to the Orville, and Ed kind of has this little heart-to-heart with her, like, listen, there's got to be something more going on here, something you're not sharing. And Havina's like, I'm not telling you. There's nothing more than meets the eye. I'm not telling you what's going on, but whatever. Ed knows something more is going on, but he obviously can't get it out of her. So what happens is they end up going to the legally distinct from a holodeck environmental simulator, and guess who appears? Well, it's actually Dolly Parton. That's right, they brought her in for this episode. She is a facsimile hologram kind of composite based on her historical personality and all that stuff. So she is, for all intents and purposes, she is a Dolly Parton. Not the Dolly Parton, but she is a Dolly Parton. And she's got this nice talk with Havina going on here. They kind of share stories a little bit. Havina tells her what's going on. Not actually what's going on, but kind of cloaks it in. I did this thing. There's a girl that's in trouble because of my actions. I don't know what to do, but if I come clean, things are going to happen that are going to rain down hell on everyone else. So she basically comes clean the best way she can without actually admitting to what's going on. Dolly's like, you know what? You got to listen to your heart. I've got all this little homespun stories I can tell you about things that have happened in my life. She tells her one. She starts playing a song. It's actually a beautiful song. It transitions great into this scene where Havina has that change of heart, goes to Ed, and just puts everything out on the line and says, I messed up. This is what I'm doing. We're illegally smuggling children off of Moklis. I asked Topa to help, and then she got snatched. So what do we have to do here to get her back? We've got to go to the Union and let them know what I did that led to this, because that's the only way we're going to be able to go through official channels to let people know what's going on with the male Moklins. You see here, this is one of the lead guy at some sort of torture facility where they've captured Topa. He's missing an eye. He's interrogating her. He's doing all sorts of unseemly things to her, beating her. He's got some sort of stun baton from the krill that, kind of like a cattle prod or something. It fills her with electricity. And not good, not nice, not fun. He's trying to get information from Topa that, for the most part, I don't think Topa would even have yet. Although perhaps they don't know that. She was just basically asked and inducted into this secret underground society that night. So she really wouldn't have these special codes or whatever they're trying to get out of her. I guess they were just trying to also get proof that this underground railroad still existed. So now we've got Kelly and Bortus here. They brought guns. They weren't supposed to bring guns. So she's like, you know what, Bortus, you broke the rules, but I'm kind of happy you did. They've tracked the Moklin ship to this planet and these evil Moklins to whatever sort of base they have. They're going on foot through the night. And what happens is now we're back at the Union where Havina, Ed, and the rest of the crew of the Orville are addressing the Union Council and basically implicating the Moklin males as stealing Topa and trying to kill her, trying to, I don't know exactly what they think they're doing with Topa, but they know they at least snatched Topa, and they're like, why would we do that? You have no proof. This is impossible. This is outrageous. You cannot come in here and accuse us. We are Union members just the same as you. Back on the planet, this is a very, very nice scene between Bortus and Kelly. A lot of people, I see a lot of split. A lot of people think this is sort of a budding romance between them. A lot of other people think this is just a scene between close friends. Upon watching it back, it did appear for a brief second that they were leaning in slightly for a kiss, perhaps, before the communicator or the sensor relay or whatever they were doing activated. So either way, we don't really get a fulfillment of that, but it's great to see that these characters have become close, and even if they don't become a true couple, because I don't think that's going to be the case, it's nice to see that they've got such long-lasting and deep connections on the ship as opposed to just co-workers, as it's kind of where things started out in season 1. They were just kind of goofy co-workers that didn't really know each other. So it's great to see that they become a family. So they end up busting in and finding Topa being beaten and tortured, and just basically they were about to kill her. They're like, well, we've got everything we can. We're going to kill this girl. She's a girl. Girls suck. We're just going to straight up murder her because what the hell? No one needs her. She's useless to us. They bust in. Bortus is not happy. Obviously, Kelly's not happy either, but Bortus just goes off the chain here. He takes the little zappy stick and shoves it in the eye of the one-eyed torturer. He ain't got no eyes anymore. His eyes be gone, y'all. Don't think he died. I do believe when Kelly finally called off Bortus and he listened and they got the hell out of Dodge, I do believe this guy is still alive. Obviously not in great condition. He's probably got some serious issues going on, because I have to imagine that also affected his brain, not just his eye, but whatever. I guess that you reap what you sow. I don't know if that's a Mocklin phrase, but it is what it is. They immediately take Topa, without healing her, without getting her anywhere, back to the Union Council in order to show them what the hell's actually going on. And I guess this is a very poignant way to show them the evidence. Like, they're like, listen, this is what happened. We came straight here. The Mocklins did this. They're to be blamed. We've got to do something about this because this crap's gone on long enough. Long enough. And the Union has a nice discussion about it. And then we cut back to the ship where Havina, this is a great scene. Havina's like, you know what, Bortus, I know you can never forgive me for what I've done. And he's like, you would be right, or something along those lines. And then just kind of walks away. So great to see they didn't rectify things between them. And there's blame to go around for various factions in this episode. And then, after everything that's happened, Clyden comes back because he heard what happened to Topa. Obviously, he said things before that were not the nicest, but deep down, he does actually care about her, care about his family, so he has returned to basically try and rectify what he said and what he has done and come back to his family, especially for his daughter. Now, the Mocklin males have been expelled from the Union for their actions. Gordon actually blew up a little bit, like, you know what, how long are we going to allow these idiots to dictate our policy? You keep bending over for them. He was very out of line. He got yelled at by Admiralty and Ed, but he spoke up his words, and I think that was a nice callback to the relationship that was kind of shown between him and Topa earlier in the episode. Now, I'm going to pause on the actual episode right here to talk about a couple things. That relationship between Gordon and Topa, no problem, showing that their closeness has been built on the ship. Also, Clyden coming back in this manner, no problem with that either. What I look at as the downside is all of this seemed to come out very quickly and not kind of breathe, not kind of linger. And I think a lot of that is because they were trying to shove as many of these storylines into a neat bow by the end of this season as they can, because they did not know if they were coming back for a season 4 or a movie or anything. So they're trying to wrap up as much as they can. And I think these things, particularly, had they been blown up, built out a little more over various episodes, given more room to breathe, would have felt slightly more ingenuous. They would have felt better. They would have felt more fleshed out, more realistic, and more cathartic had they been given more room to breathe. I think that's just because of the way television is told these days. You get 10 episodes a season. You don't know if you're coming back. You don't have 24, 25 episode seasons anymore. You don't necessarily have the time to build things up and let things breathe like you would have when you had 24 episode seasons and you're pretty much guaranteed 7 seasons like, an old Star Trek or something. If you're going to tell overarching storylines, interpersonal storylines, and you don't know if you're coming back and you want them wrapped up, you've only got so much space to do that. So not going to downvote them because of that situation, because they did actually have some good emotional punch, but they could have had more if there was more time to breathe. And that's just a fact of the new world we live in. So great to see Clyden coming back. Some great acting here. This is probably the first time we haven't seen him as either a goof or an asshole. He's been either or primarily when we've seen him before. This is some raw, genuine emotion from him. So great acting here. Kudos for that. Topa is doing a great job as well. This actress is, kind of hitting it out of the park. We didn't really see much acting from the old person who played Topa when he was a boy, but this new actress is really doing well. And if we get more Orville, I'm excited to see Topa, actually, some more Topa, because that would be great. And then we see for the first time, Clyden has kind of relaxed a bit on Kelly. He was very confrontational with her before they actually got in a fight. And now he's kind of welcoming her into the family. She's the 4th member of their family, a surrogate member of the family, because he can now tell that she truly cares for Topa. Whether or not it's going to come into play the feelings Bortus may have for her and vice versa, I don't know. But for the time being, they seem to be this nice found family, and it's good feelings all around. Topa is now kind of had a 3-season arc driving a lot of the drama behind the scenes in the Union, if you think about it. Topa is a very, very big key part of a lot of the actions going on from season 1 through season 3. And I think if we get more going on into the future, that's going to have some vast repercussions, because now the Mocklins have left the Union. We're teetering on the brink of war with the Kalon. The Krill Treaty fell apart. The Mocklins are fiercest allies with the weapons and their, well, I was going to say their cunning instinct in battle. I guess their brute force in battle. That's now gone. So we don't have the Krill. We don't have the Mocklins. Some of our other ships have been, injured in these kind of skirmishes we've had. And now we're going to have to deal with the Kalon threat coming up. So the Union might not be in the best case scenario going forward. I mean, it's not in the best case scenario. It's not in the great position, but we also need to stand up to the morals that the Union thinks they are built on. And the Mocklin males are kind of disrespecting that and not falling in line with what the Union is supposed to stand for. And they got tired of bending over backwards for them time after time after time. And finally, they said that enough is enough. Even though we need you guys for the upcoming threat, we can't stand by and just let you abuse everything we stand for. So I do like that they actually sat down, came to a conclusion. Even if you think the conclusion was poor, if you think they should have kept the Mocklins in, you don't believe in, whatever, at least they're moving the story forward and they've come to a clear-cut decision. The Mocklins are now out of the Union. How is that going to impact us going forward? We'll just have to see. But for the time being, our families are now back together. Clyden, Bortus, Topa, Kelly, they're now all aboard the ship. Our main crew, all aboard the ship. We'll have to see how these things play out. But overall, I like this episode. There's a couple of things that, like I said, were a bit rushed. Not just in this episode, but in the season in general. And there's a couple of contrivances that were a bit wishy-washy, like the fact that they don't lock their shuttles so that the Mocklins could get in and mess around with their stuff. That blue Luminite never really explained if it was actually sent by the Mocklins as a trap or if it was just actually there. And if it was just actually there, it seems a bit contrived anyways. But little minor things. Overall, it was a great, emotionally impactful story. Moved the universe forward, and I liked it. 2 episodes left before the season ends. Hopefully that's not the end of the Orville, because these episodes, for the most part, have been hitting it out of the park. Can't wait to see what's next. If you made it this far, like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, do all those YouTube things, and I'll see you next time when we're talking more Orville.